People are hungry for authenticity. They're tired of polished branding, tired of corporate scripts, tired of performative leadership, and tired of feeling like they're part of someone's funnel. People want real, and I don't think that's a coincidence. The more artificial our world becomes, the more valuable authenticity becomes. The more automated our world becomes, the more memorable genuine connection becomes. And the more digital our world becomes, the more powerful presence becomes. That's not nostalgic. That's human nature. I see this in business every day. Companies spend enormous amounts of money trying to generate leads. Yet some of the most successful organizations continue to grow primarily through referrals. Why is that? Trust. People still trust people. If you're a CEO, entrepreneur, or business owner that can't seem to figure out what is blocking you from attaining the next level of growth in your business, then listen up. I'm Maria De Laurentiis Reyes. I've taken what I've learned in 30 years working inside multi-million-dollar corporations, building my own business, and consulting my clients, and discovered 5 themes that stop a business from scaling. I've created a tool to help you get the answers you need to get unstuck and unlock the next level of growth. Head over to scale.mariadr.com and click the link to get your custom Scale Factor Formula scorecard when this episode is over. Hey everybody, welcome to Finding the Upside. I'm your host, Maria De Laurentiis Reyes, and today I want to talk about something that seems to be everywhere right now. Artificial intelligence. Every conference I attend, every leadership conversation I have, every business publication I read, every podcast I listen to seems to be asking some version of the same question. How is AI going to change everything? Will it replace jobs? Will it transform industries? Will it make us more productive? Will it eliminate entire professions? And while I think all of those are important questions, I think we're missing a much bigger one. What happens to humanity in an AI world? Because if I'm being honest, I don't think what people are most worried about is the technology. I think people are worried about significance. They're worried about relevance. They're worried about value. They're worried about whether the things that make them uniquely human will still matter in a world increasingly driven by automation. And I understand that concern. Because whether we realize it or not, many of us have spent our entire lives tying our worth to what we produce, to what we know, to what we accomplish, to how much we can get done. We live in a culture that celebrates productivity, achievement, output, efficiency. So when a technology suddenly arrives that can write, create, analyze, summarize, code, design, and automate at speeds we've never seen before, it naturally creates a lot of anxiety. Not just about jobs, but also about identity. I've been thinking about this a lot lately because I don't think we're actually living through a technology revolution. I think we're living through a humanity reckoning. Technology is simply exposing questions that were already there. Questions like, what makes us valuable? What makes leadership effective? What makes relationships meaningful? What creates trust? What creates belonging? And what creates loyalty? Because if AI can produce content faster than I can, and if AI can analyze information faster than I can, then maybe the real value was never in the content itself. Maybe the value was always in the connection. And that is where I think many leaders are looking in the wrong place. Think about it. For the last 20 years, business has been obsessed with scale. Scale your marketing, scale your sales, scale your communication, scale your customer acquisition, scale your audience. And technology made that possible. Social media gave us reach. Digital marketing gave us automation. Funnels gave us efficiency. CRM systems gave us data. And don't get me wrong, all those tools are useful. But with all the noise and the so called gurus out there claiming that they know the only way, somewhere along the way, many organizations became so focused on scaling relationships that they stopped building them. Think about how often we refer to people now. Their leads, contacts, prospects, followers, subscribers, traffic, conversions, data, metrics. But people aren't metrics. People are human beings. And I think one of the reasons so many people feel disconnected right now is because they increasingly feel like they're being treated as transactions instead of relationships. I built my business for 20 years on referrals only. And that didn't come from anything automatic or any piece of technology. Sure, it helped do the work. I embrace that. But the real value was in building relationships and connection. Now, one of the things I find fascinating is that at the exact moment technology has made communication easier than ever, loneliness has become one of the defining issues of our time. Researchers have been sounding the alarms for years. A Gallup poll recently found that 1 in 5 employees globally experiences loneliness, and 19% of them said they had no one human to rely on for emotional support. So, not isolation. That's not what the study showed. Loneliness. And there's a difference. You can be surrounded by communication and still feel profoundly disconnected. You can have thousands of followers and no meaningful relationships. You can be in meetings all day and feel unseen. You can be connected to everyone and belong nowhere. And I think that's exactly what people are experiencing. We've created incredible systems for communication, but we've neglected connection. I often think to my own experience, coming from my town where I grew up, going to work in New York City, and I've talked about this before on previous episodes. In my world, it was relatively small. I had limited experience and exposure to different types of people, and it wasn't that anyone intended it to be that way, it just was. And then suddenly, working in this big city, traveling across this great country, I found myself surrounded by people with completely different experiences, different backgrounds, different cultures, different identities, and perspectives. What changed me wasn't information. It was proximity. It was conversation. It was relationships. It was sitting across from people whose stories expanded my understanding of the world. That's what transformed me. Not content, connection. And I think we're about to rediscover just how valuable that is. Because what I don't think AI can do, I know it, AI cannot create genuine trust. It can mimic empathy, but it cannot care. It can generate words, but it cannot build relationships. It can provide information, but it cannot create belonging. It can analyze behavior, but it cannot replace human intuition. And those distinctions matter, especially in leadership, because leadership has never been about information. Leadership has always been about influence. And influence is built on trust, not expertise alone, trust. I think one of the biggest leadership shifts that we're about to see is the elevation of emotional intelligence from a nice to have skill to a critical business capability. For years, emotional intelligence has been categorized as a soft skill. I have always hated that term because there is nothing soft about helping people navigate uncertainty. There is nothing soft about building trust. There is nothing soft about creating psychological safety. And there is nothing soft about leading people through change. In fact, those may be the hardest skills of all. And as technology becomes increasingly capable of handling technical tasks, human centered skills become exponentially more valuable. The ability to listen deeply, the ability to facilitate difficult conversations, the ability to create belonging, the ability to build trust across differences, the ability to inspire, and the ability to lead through uncertainty. These are becoming competitive advantages, not because technology is failing, but because humanity is becoming scarce. Think about what's happening culturally right now. People are hungry for authenticity. They're tired of polished branding, tired of corporate scripts, tired of performative leadership, and tired of feeling like they're part of someone's funnel. People want real, and I don't think that's a coincidence. The more artificial our world becomes, the more valuable authenticity becomes. The more automated our world becomes, the more memorable genuine connection becomes. And the more digital our world becomes, the more powerful presence becomes. That's not nostalgic. That's human nature. I see this in business every day. Companies spend enormous amounts of money trying to generate leads. Yet some of the most successful organizations continue to grow primarily through referrals. Why is that? Trust. People still trust people. People still do business with people they believe in. People still hire people they feel connected to. And people still follow leaders they trust. Technology changes tactics, but it doesn't change human nature. And I think that's the lesson many leaders need to be hearing right now, really hearing that. Because the future does not belong to the organizations with the most technology. Everyone will eventually have access to technology. The future belongs to organizations that know how to combine technology with humanity, efficiency with empathy, automation with belonging, and innovation with trust. So, what does that mean for us? It means we need to stop asking only how technology can make us faster and start asking how leadership can make us more human. How can we create cultures where people feel seen? How can we build workplaces where belonging matters? And how can we create customer experiences that feel more personal instead of transactional? And how can we leverage technology without losing connection? Because I don't believe the future is human versus AI. I think the future belongs to people who understand both. People who embrace innovation while protecting humanity. People who use technology as a tool instead of allowing it to become a substitute for relationships. People who understand that while information has become abundant, trust remains rare, and rare things become valuable. And the only way to build trust is through human connection, conversation, and time invested in building that connection. So, what's the upside? The upside is that the skills many people have underestimated for years have become the most valuable skills of all: empathy, connection, creativity, belonging, trust, community, humanity. There's a lot in there. I want to talk in a future episode about the value of creativity. When we rely so much on technology, we lose that edge as well. And we've got to take a listen and take advice from being able to balance that. The upside is that while technology may change how we work, it doesn't change what people need. People still want to matter. They still want to belong, and they still want to be seen. And maybe this moment isn't teaching us how to compete with machines. Maybe it's reminding us what machines can never replace: our humanity. If today's conversation resonated with you, I would love it if you would share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't already, please subscribe, leave a review, and help us bring more people into these conversations. Because the future of leadership isn't just about innovation. It's about ensuring that as we move forward, we don't lose the very things that make us human. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'm Maria De Laurentiis Reyes. Until next time, stay connected, stay curious, stay human, and keep finding the upside. All right, so I hope you loved this episode and found it valuable. Thanks for hanging out with me. And if you'd be so kind, if you know someone else that this will help, please share this episode with them. Just grab a link for this specific episode, text it to a friend or colleague so it can help more people like you. Thanks so much for tuning in. I will see you next time for more entrepreneurial goodness. Same time, same place on the Finding the Upside podcast.